to this Photoshop video. We are working in Photoshop 2022, looking specifically at some Nueral filters and cool things you can do. And kind of before we get started, I think it's really important to talk about the ethics of photo editing and editing for news versus editorial and creative artistic work. To that end, I've added the National Press Photographers Association ethics statement down below. I think it's really important that we always consider the ethics of the work we are doing. For news purposes, really what you can correct is anything that doesn't change the meaning. So improving color quality but not changing color. Improving crops but not changing the content of the photo. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about here today is not newsworthy work. This is artistic and editorial edits. Things that are fun, things that you'll enjoy doing, but nothing I would encourage you to do for a journalism news publication. So that's your fine print right off the bat. So I mentioned we're going to play with some Nueral filters, and we'll get with those, but I'm going to first show you some of the new filters we have with the sky replacement. So we've got a photo here, and we're just going to go to Edit and Sky Replacement. And Photoshop is always and look, we've already added that in there. Photoshop is always adding new sky features. So make sure that you kind of check these out. You can also add your own. So if you have an especially impressive Kansas sunset photo that you would like to add, you can bring that in. And I'm just going to point out that when you add those filters, notice it's also changing the overall tone and quality and temperature of the photo. So you can get in and edit these as needed, altering how that sky is going to look. You can see that our other sky is still in there. So it's a full layer that we're adding onto it. And we can make adjustments to the foreground and just really tweak these depending on what photo we have and what we're doing. So a great tool to experiment and play around with. I'm just going to go ahead and output that to new layers just so you can see what this creates. So here is that sky with a mask, the foreground lighting adjustment, and the foreground color adjustment. If I hide all of that, there's my original photo. So no pixels were damaged in the creation of this sky replacement photo. So that is fun to play with. And again, you can add your own, so bring in your own. Now that we've looked at some sky replacement, let's take a look at some of these Nueral filters. And I'm going to look at some of the brand new ones and look at some of my favorite ones that were released previously. To get to your Nueral filters, filter and then Nueral filters. You can turn all of these on by toggling the on and off. The featured are the ones that are fully working, ready to go. The beta ones are the ones that you can test, and those are some of the ones we're going to play with today. So I'm going to start with one of the ones that is featured, which is the Colorize. And so it's processing, and there you can see there's our before and then our after in this frame. And this was a black and white photo. So this is how you can bring in some archival footage, experiment with those, and add that auto color. There's also looks that you can apply to this. So if I wanted to bring in some higher contrast, I can do that. Really kind of get extreme with that. But those I think are worth experimenting with to get different looks on that recolor. In this case, I think just the original profile is the best one. Hit OK. And then there's my photo. As always, we're protecting our pixels. So there's the black and white. And on top, we have the colorized version. Let's dive into some more Nueral filters here. So this one is going to look at how we can kind of change the overall mood and light and energy of a photo. So if we look at this photo, what are some of the things we're seeing here? It might be morning, might be evening. There's a cool bluish green tone to this. let's see how we can warm this up and change that. So I'm going to go into my Nueral filters, and there's a couple of different approaches I can take with this. And we're going to be on the landscape mixer. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And so the first thing that I think is fun to play with is thinking about, well, how would I change using just the seasons or the time of day? So to me, this photo reads as maybe morning or evening, likely a morning, very cool, fog rising. So what's it going to look like if I change it to sunset? So big difference, completely different mood. We'll take that back. You can also use either presets or bring in your own custom photo to apply different looks from those photos. So let's take this photo that has some really bright colors, and we'll pull that in. And you can see how now we're pulling in the colors from that really pink purple, completely changing the look of our foggy mountain photo. And when I hit OK, I can output this to a new layer. And just like before, there's our before, there's our after. So our next example is very similar to that landscape mixer, but we're bringing in color palettes. So I've got my little peony, and I'm going to go to my Nueral filters, and I'm going to bring up color transfer. And so same thing here. I can choose one of the images that they provided in presets, or I can choose a custom. I can open up one, or if I already have it open, I can apply it. And so now we're pulling that photo and adding it onto this look.